Hi, everyone, and welcome to INSIDE AWai. This week, we're talking about landing and setting up retainer deals. My name is Rebecca Matter, and I'm the one on the left. And today, I'm joined by my fearless partner, Katie Yeakle. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Rebecca. Hi, everybody.
For those of you who don't know Katie, she is our executive director and is also one of the co-founders, one of the people who started this company almost 20 years ago. So it's awesome to have her here. And we're both super excited about this topic because retainer deals, and we're going to get into what this is, but retainer deals are the things that make it much easier to transition from a full-time job into a freelance life. You know, having predictable income helps a lot when you're looking to make that switch. So today we're going to go over all of that and show you how to land these great deals. Okay, so with that, let's jump on into landing and setting up retainer deals. Our goals for this session are to really go over the benefits of retainers. Beyond predictable income, there's a lot of benefits to starting or setting up your freelance business this way. We'll go over the best retainer projects and how to land them. We'll go over best practices for structuring retainers, and then how to approach clients about retainers. And then at the end, we'll open it up for questions. Part of INSIDE AWai is to make us accessible to you. So whatever questions you have, whether it's about retainers, about the company, about a program that you're taking, about your niche, whatever it is, Katie and I want to be here to help you. And then Denise and Barb Hume, who's actually head of all of our membership groups, so Circle of Success, Wealthy Web Writer, B2B Writing Success, Professional Writers Alliance. She's joining us today too, so I might jump in and answer questions in the Q&A as well. So feel free to post any questions that you have. And if we don't answer your question during the live session, it's probably because we are holding it to the very end because we want to talk about the answer. So that's why you might not see it answered right away. So with that, let's jump on in. 7 reasons why retainers rock, and they do rock. First of all, it's easier to forecast your income. So again, for those of you who are transitioning from the full-time to the freelance life, you need to have steady income. You know, you've got a job right now where you're making a set amount of money, you have bills that are coming in that you have to pay, and so if you can forecast your income and you know how much money is coming in every month, it makes all of that a lot less stressful and a lot easier. One thing I wanted to point out, or I wanted to note about your income, when you're looking to jump from the freelance life to the from the full-time job to the freelance life, think about how much money you actually need to make before you leave your job. It's not about necessarily about replacing your salary, because you're going to be you'll have a lot more time once you actually make the switch to full-time freelance. But how much money do you actually have to make in a given month to make sure that all your bills are covered, and then a little bit extra? Because remember, you'll have a lot more time once you actually quit your job. But again, freelance or retainer deals, it makes it easier to forecast your income. The second thing is just peace of mind. I guess we should probably go over retainers for those of you who are super new. Retainers are just basically set projects that you can count on every single month. So and we're going to go over some examples, but every month I expect so much copy from you, and every month you expect so much money from me as your client. So it's very nice. You can have multiple retainer deals, and you really only need a few to have that, you know, steady foundation of income month after month. So it gives you that peace of mind. You're not having to wonder where your next project is coming from because you already know you have this steady project that happens every single month. It gives you an increased per hour rate. Even though we never recommend pricing on the per hour, you know, as you get better, faster, stronger, your money that you're making per hour tends to go up because you become more efficient, you become more effective, and the more you work on retainer deals with clients, the better that you get because you know their audience better, you know the company better, you know their copy style better, you know what works better. So you just get more efficient. Your retainer rate doesn't go down as you start spending less time on that client. It stays the same. So your per hour rate actually ends up increasing because you're able to do the job more efficiently. Fourth one is better results for your client and a better track record for you because you're working so closely with your clients and you're understanding their prospects and you're understanding their business. Of course, you're just going to do better than the average freelancer who comes in and does one project and then leaves. Month over month, you're learning. You're learning about their customers and what they're interested in, what their hot buttons are. So your clients are going to get better results. And that means you're going to have a better track record. When you go to land other clients or take on other projects, you can say, hey, this is what I've done for client A, this is what I've done for client B. It's such a great way to promote yourself and land other deals as well as one-off projects. Overall, with retainer deals, you'll spend more time making money and less time marketing, and that's just because you've got a steady gig. You only have so many hours in the day that you're going to be working, and once you fill up those hours, you really can't take on any other clients unless you either give up something or, let one go so that you can hire a better client, and that's a whole other conversation and something that will happen to you naturally. As you pursue copywriting, as you become a professional writer, you will outgrow clients, but that's for another day. But you get to spend less time marketing because you don't have to fill your project list every month because you have a set amount every single month that you can expect, which means you'll spend more time making money because you'll be working on projects every month. You'll get increased referrals. So this just goes with relationships. The more you work with clients, again, the better you start doing just because you know their stuff better, the happier they are, the more likely they are to refer you. The people that I refer most, just because I know them so well and because I work with them so much, are my retainer freelancers. And that's just because I've seen them work so much. It's not just the one project. I've seen them work month after month, so I have a lot more experience working with them. And so it's a great way to get referrals from your clients. And then finally, just increased value. You as a freelancer, when working month to month and learning them and learning their business and learning their marketing, you just bring so much more value to the table. You will, and this is the one that actually you would think that this one wasn't the most exciting. I mean, more money, less marketing, increased referrals, all that sounds awesome. But this last one is the one that excites me the most, because as a retainer freelancer, you are talking to their customers. You're working on a regular basis with them. You know where the opportunities lie in the business. And so that means, along with you doing better at the stuff that you're working on, you actually provide way more value to your clients. You're going to be then put in the position to say, hey, client A, I've been working on social media. I think you really need to do an article series on this topic. Or, hey, your customers over here are talking about this. Have you thought about doing a sales letter about ABC? Or, I thought of a great new email strategy after listening to the people over on social media or after looking at the responses to this e-newsletter. I think it would be great if we did an email sequence that looked like this. You provide so much value to your clients. All right, so the retainers, along with giving you loads of benefits, they benefit your clients too. I've touched on this a little bit, but the first one is the reduced time hiring copywriters. They don't have to worry about finding new copywriters every single month for every single project because the time they already have a copywriter that they can count on month after month. Benefits of retainer deals for your clients. First up, reduced time hiring copywriters. And the reason I want to go over this is to show you the value from the client side. It's not just a bunch of value to you. They want retainer deals too. If I set up a retainer with you as a freelance writer, I don't have to hire new copywriters every single month for every single project because I know that you're great. That's why I have you on retainer. And so when I have another project, I just call you. So I get to save a lot of my time hiring copywriters, and that is a huge time crunch for marketers. It's one of our biggest challenges. It's a challenge that Katie and I literally just came back from a mastermind group and of small businesses. It was about 85 companies, and that's a consistent thing that we hear is finding copywriters, and that's what we're trying to help them with. How do we make that time more effective? So when they're looking for copywriters, they're finding what they're looking for. And one of the things we talk about is set them up on retainers so that you can get good copywriters, you can keep them, and keep that relationship growing and learning. It's also, for me as the client, there's a shorter prep time for projects. So when I give you a project, because you know my prospect, because you know who we are and what our products are, and you're very familiar, I don't have to spend a lot of time, what we call onboarding you, to get you up to speed on things you already know. So I can just send off, my retainer people, I can just send them, say, hey, I need a sales letter on this, or I need an e-letter on that. And they'll have questions that they'll ask, but I don't have to fill them in on everything else with our style and our voice and the tone and the things like that. They already know. So it's better for the marketers for that reason too. I get better copy as the client in the long run because you know all of this stuff and you've been working with us, and we get better results. So the retainer is like, it's a true win-win. It's great for you, and it is great for me as the client. Okay, so now we all know and want retainer deals, which is probably why you're here anyways, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew the full scope of just how awesome retainer deals are. So now, and there are tons of ways to structure retainer deals, but what I want to do is go over what I think are the 3 best ones to start with, just because the demand is high right now, as well as they're a lot easier to land than more complicated retainers. So let's go over the best 3. And again, by best, I mean they're just easier to land right now, either because of demand and or just because of ease of entry. Especially if you're new, if it's a first-time client, there's not a huge amount of risk for the client to give you a shot. The first one is probably my favorite. This is the one that if you're looking to make the leap from full-time job to freelance job, if you can get social media projects, it will make that transition super easy for you because you're not going to need that many of them. The purpose of social media when you're doing retainer and the reason companies are on social media, the first one is to attract and engage new prospects. And I'm going to go over some of the details of these projects. So for those of you who are super new, you understand kind of what the job looks like and what it entails. But the purpose of social media, of somebody managing a social media account as a writer, is to attract and engage new prospects. So attracting people to the Facebook group, attracting people to the LinkedIn group, to the Twitter accounts, and then engaging them once they're there. So talking to them, answering their questions, posting relevant content. The second purpose is to turn those followers into buyers. So have that discussion with them, move them along so that when the sales opportunities appear, they're ready. They already have built trust with the brand. They know that their questions will get answered. They've spoken with other customers and members, and so therefore they feel like they're already part of the community. So when they have the opportunity to buy something from the company, whether it's through social media or through another channel, it helps them feel comfortable. They're already 80% of the way there because you've helped nurture them. And then finally, it's the third purpose is to service current customers. Most of you hopefully are part of one of our groups, whether it's the main page for AWAI or one of our writing groups. We have an online copywriters group, one for B2B copywriters, and one for professional writers, as well as the barefoot writer. If you're in those groups, that's part of our goal there is to service our members. We think of our customers as members, but to service our members, and that's what more and more companies are doing. You'll see some companies moving away from, online chat and customer service call centers and things like that. They're pushing people towards social media because they want to service their customers publicly so that people can see, wow, this is a great company. Look, of course they follow through on their guarantees. Look how fast they respond. Wow, they really answered these questions. It's such a great opportunity for companies, which is why so many companies are moving a good part of their marketing to social media, which is a great opportunity for you as a writer. So the writer's role is to manage these communities. They write messages and updates on a regular basis. They might write advertisements to build followers and increase engagements. That's more of the sales side of things. They lead discussions. What's your favorite retainer deal? Let's talk about that today. Or what's your biggest challenge that you're having? Or has anyone ever talked about this before? Let's talk about this today. You get to be this discussion leader. And then finally, they turn engagements into content. And like with all of my lists, that's my favorite one because that's usually more additional fees. So you are managing this stuff. You're managing the community. You're writing these messages. You're engaging with their customers, and you're helping. You're just helping. You're being this useful resource. And then because of that, you're getting all these great ideas that you're then taking to the client and saying, hey, we should totally write an article on this, that, and the other. Everyone's asking about pricing. Let's do a program on pricing. Everybody wants to know about how to pick their niche. These are the kind of things that come from AWAI. And by the way, client, I happen to be a copywriter. I can do that work for you for an additional fee. So social media just opens the door wide open for more projects. So in addition to getting a set fee every month, you just have this laundry list of things that you can propose to your current clients. And who do they want to hear from more about ideas than you? You're talking to their customers. You are in such a great position to offer other things. I also love this part. The fees for managing social media are upwards of $2,000 a month, depending on how much you do. But just managing a couple of Facebook accounts and maybe a Twitter account could easily get you $2,000 a month. And that is not, it would be very reasonable for you to take on 4 or 5 social media clients. So you can see just how easily you can transition just with social media from the full-time life to the freelance life. And then again, new content and other things are often priced separately. So your clients will give you $2,000 a month, but they may be worth a whole lot more in the end because of all the other projects that you can ultimately add on as you learn new skills and how to do different projects. You start with social media and then build your training. Maybe you don't offer anything for the first couple months, but you're taking our content program, you're learning about how to write emails, learning to write case studies or white papers. And then when you're ready, you're perfectly set up to then offer those additional services to your clients. So how do you land these social media deals? The best way to start is to get involved in their social networks. Identify 5 clients. Everybody can do this today. Identify 5 clients in your niche that you really want to write for. If you don't know what niche is, that basically means, we did another Inside AWai on this, so we can link you to that, but it's basically choosing an industry or a group of a certain type of company that you want to write for. So let's say the mommy market or the writing community or solar technology. I mean, it could really be anything. And then identify 5 social networks and get involved. Start commenting, start engaging, just be present and let them see that you're engaged, that you're what we call the superstar participant. We're constantly watching. At any given time, I know who my 3 best community members are in any one of our communities. So get involved. That's huge as far as landing social media. Then identify how they're using them. Remember that first slide, and we can flip back there. Are they using it to attract and engage new prospects? Are they using it to turn followers into buyers? Or are they using it to service their current customers? Or are they using it to do all of those things? But identify how they're using them, because that will help structure your message. Then research and join similar groups. So you've got the main 5 that you're part of, but in becoming part of their communities, you're going to learn, members and social media people are very open to sharing information about where they are and the worlds that they participate in. So get involved in similar groups, especially on groups like LinkedIn and even on Facebook. You'll quickly know if you're a member of this group, you should probably think about joining that group, and you'll find all that stuff. Join those groups too. And then look for additional opportunities. Are they posting things? Let's say they're only servicing customers, but they're not actually trying to attract anybody. Well, hey, there's your in. You're only doing this for servicing. I'd love to help you actually bring people to your page. Or I see that you're bringing people to your page, but really all you're doing is just sending them to content. You're not really engaging with your social media followers. Let me help you engage. And so it's just anytime you can come in with an opportunity to a marketer, they're going to listen. And then you basically go in and says, it seems like your goals are X, Y, and Z. I'd like to propose A, B, and C. So be very specific and show them that you've taken the time to pay attention to what they're doing. So we have a whole program on social media. If this excites you, actually, if it excites you, don't buy the program now, because I happen to know that we are going to have it on sale later this month. So I would actually ask you to hold off on that just to save you money, and it's a really big discount. I don't know it offhand. I want to say it's like $200 off, but I will find that information and I will post it in the follow-up. And I'll see if I can open it up. Just in case this does interest you, let me see if I can get the group to put the discount on earlier. Otherwise, look out for a week in review, not tomorrow, but next week, and you'll find a discounted link in there.
And Rebecca, I just want to say, that's why we call these calls Inside AWai, because you get the inside scoop.
This is true. Excellent.
We like to come up with surprises. Okay, go on. This is so great, Rebecca. I'm so excited.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, you saw the slides before.
I know, but good.
We love what we do. Okay, so number 2 is e-newsletters. Now, this one I love, too, because I get some pushback on social media sometimes saying, I don't like this whole social media thing. That's okay, because e-newsletters are also awesome. The reason I love e-newsletters, we'll go into the reason why, but the purpose of an e-newsletter, and this is just the newsletter like The Writer's Life or The Golden Thread or any of the things that you get from us. The goal of a company sending out an e-newsletter is threefold once again. The first one is to position the company as the expert. So they have to constantly demonstrate their expertise. The second one is to turn prospects, people who are just in there, looking at their content into customers, and then finally to turn customers into repeat buyers to buy other stuff. So it's hard. It's not a very easy task for companies because they have a lot of things that they're trying to accomplish in one message. So they're talking to three different purposes at any given time. And that's why writers are necessary, especially in the smaller professional businesses. And there are millions of companies in this space professional service providers, accountants and chiropractors and karate studio around the corner and whatever. These companies need to stay in their prospects and customers' mind constantly, and they need this content. But that's not what they do. They're not writers, right? They're chiropractors, they're dentists, they're accountants. They don't write newsletters, but yet they need to be out there showing their customers and reminding them that they're here and providing them valuable information. And they can't send them the same information time after time. It has to be new every single time. So if I'm an accountant, the last thing I want to do is put out a monthly newsletter. That's just not what I want to do. If I'm a karate studio or a yoga studio, I probably have to do it weekly. I don't want to do that. I want to teach yoga. I want to teach karate. I want to build my business without having to do the writing. Writers this is the coolest job because once they start mailing, they can't stop. So the minute they say, hey, sign up for our weekly e-letter on ABC, guess what? They have to mail it every single week. So they've now stuck themselves in this corner, which is great for us, again, because now they have to fulfill. But that's not their real job. Their job is correcting the spine or cleaning the teeth or whatever the thing is. So it's a perfect retainer deal. This is one of those deals that you will set up, and as long as you're supplying the newsletter on a regular basis, you're like rarely going to hear from them except for to give you information. You want to know what they want you to cover, but again, just like with all retainer deals, the more and more you work with them, the more and more you write for them, it really is I don't want to have to think about it. If I'm not thinking about it as the client, you're doing a great job. And I have some newsletter writers who work like that, where first I was writing the newsletter and now they're writing it, and I don't even approve it anymore because I know that they know our voice. I know that they know our tone. I know that they're competent in what they're writing about now. They can just do it. So they don't even have to work with me anymore. They just get to send in their invoice and collect their paycheck month after month. So the writer's role in an e-newsletter, and this is another good reason to pick somewhat of a niche because you do a lot of researching because you need to be you have to come up with new content every week. So you want to be researching the industry. If you have 5 e-newsletter clients in the same industry, how much easier is it going to be for you to write every month? Because you're going to be able to reuse the research that you've done for all of your clients. So you're going to do a lot of research. You'll develop an editorial calendar. Client ABC, I'm thinking about covering this on week 1, this on week 2, this on week 3, here was week 4. What do you think? Great, done. You'll write the content, and then you'll develop a single voice for the company. If they don't already have a newsletter that already has a voice, you will help them create that voice. Whenever they hear from this newsletter, this is kind of what style that the readers will expect. And that's important because you don't want someone to sound one way one day and something else the other day. There needs to be that consistency. So you will help them shape what that voice is. This last one is not very common, but it is an option, and it will increase your fees, especially if you're working for a smaller business. You could actually manage their email list and disseminate the e-newsletter, which means you actually send out their e-newsletter. If you're going to go down that path, that's a little bit more of a technical thing. Once you learn it, it's really not that big of a deal, and there's so many great software systems that do this for you, but it is a service that you can add, and it is in addition to the fees that I'm going to show you as far as writing e-newsletters go. If you do want to go down the e-newsletter path, we have this program by Michael Katz. He is the guy. This is all he does is write newsletters. He's built his whole business just on this thing. He's trained so many AWAI members on how to do this, but he does go into that last piece on how to elevate yourself and add this additional fee on. So typically for an issue, for an e-newsletter, and this depends on frequency and about how long, but you're looking at about $900 to $2,000 per issue. The length is typically 1,200 to 1,500 words. So this is more like the professional service provider. If you're writing an e-newsletter for the vet every single month, this is about the rate that you're going to expect. And then thousands to set up an e-newsletter from scratch. So if you're working with a business who does not have an e-newsletter and they need you to create the focus of the e-newsletter, you're not just stepping in and taking it over. You're actually creating it. It's going to cost an additional there'll be multiple thousands in that first month just to set up the e-newsletter. Michael does go into it. That's a lot more in detail than what I can cover here, but he does cover that amount of detail in the program. And whether you take these programs or not, I still want you to go out and do these retainer deals. I'm not really, with Inside AWI, we never really try to sell you anything. This isn't really what our role or goal is here. We're just here to inform and answer questions. That being said, whenever AWI puts out a program, we know, A, that it's an opportunity where a lot of people are making a good living doing it. That's one of our measurements. 2, we go after an expert who is not only teaching in the area, but is genuinely working. None of our experts are just teachers. They are all working professionals who are doing the thing that they're teaching at, and they're one of the best in the industry. It's just that's one of our requirements for creating programs for AWI. And then the third piece is that they have to be able to teach you how to get clients. So in every one of our programs, whether it's social media, whether it's newsletters, copywriting, you'll always find that last piece, which is, okay, now you have the skill, how do you actually get clients? Because you and I both know you can have a lot of skills, but if nobody's going to pay you for them, then they're just hobbies. It's not really a career. So just know that if you do take these programs, that's all in there. But e-newsletters, I mean, you could literally have 5 clients. And to write 1,500 words, I'm so fast at writing now, and I wasn't always this way. When I started with AWI about 2 years in, I wanted to live the writer's life like everybody else. I had taken this copywriting program. I'm like, this is great. I know you hired me for marketing, but I really want to be a writer. So I started writing, and Katie edited my stuff, and it was good enough to be published. And it would take me days to write 1,500 words just to finally get it to the point where I was comfortable. And she would work with me and edit it, and it would finally be good enough, and we'd publish it. And that was 10 years ago. And I hope you never find the stuff that I wrote 10 years ago, because it is so bad now. It was good enough back then, but now I've just become better and more efficient and more effective. I can bang out 1,500 words in a few hours. So you get a lot faster at doing this stuff, especially if you have 5 clients all in the same industry. So yeah, you're talking about, 5, maybe 2 weeks at the most with 5 clients. Not a bad living just on e-newsletters. So how do you land e-newsletters? You focus on a particular niche. I'm telling you, if you pick a niche and say, I'm the vet newsletter writer, I'm the chiropractor newsletter writer, whatever it is, start there. It will make your life so easy. Plus, you'll be an expert in that space. Who else are they going to hire to write their veterinarian newsletter than the guy who writes veterinarian newsletters? That's what you do. That's your specialty. So that is great. Review other newsletters in the industry. What are other people talking about? What are they covering? It makes it very easy to figure out what the hot topics are. And then put together a few sample issues. If you're going to be the martial arts newsletter writer, put together 3 sample issues of awesome martial arts newsletters. And just make up the company name, doesn't matter. This is another important note, samples. All clients are looking for when they ask you for samples is truly just a sample of your writing. They're not looking because you work for company ABC or because you have this high-profile client. Don't worry about that. They just want to see if you're the martial arts newsletter writer, show me 3 samples of a martial arts newsletter, and I will be able to judge, because that's my area of expertise, whether I think that newsletter will resonate with my customers. That's it. So if you have 0 clients and then you are brand new and this is the first day that you have met AWAI and have never heard a single thing about writing, don't worry about samples. You are not a newbie. We call you newbies sometimes just because you are new to the world, to the industry, and to the AWI community. But as far as your clients go, they don't need to know that. You are not new. We set you up to be professionals from day 1. So all you need to do is put together some samples. And then prepare 2 proposal templates. I like templates because it makes it very easy when the client says, hey, I am interested. Send me a proposal. Well, great. I already have it all written out. I just have to fill in your name, customize it just a little bit. One will be for taking over an existing e-newsletter, so they already have one in place. Here's what it will be to take it over for you. And then the second one will be for starting a new e-newsletter. And the reason there are 2 separate proposal templates is because if the company doesn't have an e-newsletter, there's a little bit more that you're going to have to do to help them establish their voice and what the e-newsletter is. For those of you just starting out, go after the ones who already have them. It'll be easier for you. Or else, again, take Michael Katz's program. It's in our catalog, and that will help you learn how to present and how to set up a new e-newsletter. He even shows you how to pitch them so that you present that opportunity very well to the client so that it will, improve your chances of them saying yes. Okay, the third one.
Rebecca, as you take a breath there, Rebecca, I'm just going to ask Barb, why don't you go ahead and put that link up so everyone can see it, because I am getting quite a few questions about the newsletter program.
I'll put that in the chat right now.
Thank you.
If you
all right, Rebecca.
Barb, go ahead and grab the social media one too, just to have it there. But again, nobody order, you know what, nobody order social media until you hear from me on Monday. I just don't want anybody to spend the money over the weekend and then see this deal a week later and say, I could have gotten it for $200 less. Might even be more, but I'll get back to you. Okay, online content. This is one that people never think about retainers, and it always surprises me. I want to go over online content. First, instead of just showing you the purpose, I'm going to go over the mistaken purpose too. It's probably one of the most misunderstood forms of writing out there today. Most companies and writers think that the reason you write online content, or the purpose of online content, is to impress their readers and to prove their authority, which of course happens kind of as a side anyways, but that is never your intention as a writer when writing online content. The real purpose is it's bigger. It's way bigger than that. It's to attract prospects to the business. It's to put content out there that is relevant to the people who you're trying to bring into your business. Not anyone out there who's just sitting on, just looking in the fence and, hey, I'm interested in this topic. We're trying to find the people who genuinely are a fit for the business, people who are genuinely going to buy our products and services. That's the main purpose of online content, is to attract the right people into reading it. The second one is to engage readers. Once they're there, those of you who have been through our copywriting program, we talk about headlines and leads. Grab them by the lapels and make them stay, get them really excited to read on. That's what online content has to do. It has to bring in the right people, and then it has to engage them. It's got to make them stay and start a conversation. Online content is so easy to click away from, right? The minute you're distracted by email, instant message, the phone ringing, a fare alert from Southwest about some discounted fare, everything is just in your face trying to get you online, get your attention. So online content has to really engage people to get them to stay. It helps nurture relationships. Yes, you're proving your authority, and that's going to nurture relationships, but they need to know that this content is good and genuine and authentic and is really helping them and helping them form a relationship with the brand. And then finally, and this is another one that's just so misunderstood, it helps prepare them for the sale. The ultimate job of online content, whether anybody likes it or not, is to move someone closer to the sale. It doesn't have to have any, not even a drop of sales in it, but it needs to be giving the right message so that it moves them, again, 80% of the way there, so that when the sales letter appears or when the sales opportunity appears, they are ready. They already trust the brand. They already know that the company can solve the problem that they're having, and whoops, there's the product that's going to get the job done. So online content writers are super valuable. That's why I laugh whenever someone says, oh, this company wants to pay $5 for their online content. Yay, more power to them. And they can go find the freelancer who's willing to pay, who's willing to write and slave away for $5 an article, because that's not the client that I want to work for. And that's not the client that you should be working for either. AWAI we're a professional company. We do professional training for professional writers who work for clients who value and respect and need professional writers. That's what we teach here. So online content writers it seems like there's a lot out there, but not ones who really know how to do the job well. You already, just by listening to this presentation, know 90% more than some quote-unquote online content writers, just because now you understand the importance of online content and its real purpose. And you can just use this slide. I mean, put this into your presentation when you go talk to a potential client and just say, I understand the real purpose of online content. It's to attract your prospects. It's to engage your readers, nurture the relationship, and prepare them for the sale. Done. You're already going to sell so much value right there just from that alone. So your fees, we're looking at $100 to $500 per piece. The fees depend on length and complexity of topic. Some of you can charge even more, especially if you're in the business-to-business space and you're writing about something that's very specific. You're writing about some kind of widget or this new solar technology function or the way that this drug affects the body in pharmaceutical or whatever. It could be a lot more, but this is your traditional online content, the stuff that you and I read on a daily basis, the 800 to 2,000 word pages that it's bringing people in, connecting them to the brand, engaging them, and nurturing those relationships. So again, easy, great monthly. The way that the retainer deals work with online content is to basically say, I will provide you with 4 articles a month that you can post on your website, or 2 articles a week, or if you work for AWI, 5 articles a week over 4 weeks that you can post on your site. And that's how retainers work. So even though it's per piece, when you transition this to a retainer deal, you'll just say, company ABC, I understand that, you know, online content, you need to be posting something regularly. So why don't we just do this? We'll do a package deal. I'll send you 4 ideas every single month. You'll pay me $2,000 and we'll call it a day. And that's what you can expect from me every month. So that's online content. So how do you land? Very similar to social media, get involved. Read content on websites of interest. Go look at the companies that you want to work for. Go look at other companies in that industry and read their content. What are they writing about? Determine who their audience is and what they're ultimately trying to sell. Remember, now that you know that, from now on, whenever you read online content, I want you to ask yourself the question, what are they trying to sell me? Right? Because ultimately they're setting you up for something. They're identifying a problem. They're showing you a dream that you have or a goal, and they are providing you with a solution. They are the solution. It's very rare for companies just to be free online content with no other intention, because businesses are in the business of making money. They're there to sell things. And you don't want to write for companies who aren't selling anything, because that means they have no money to give you. So you want to write for companies who are selling something. So determine who their audience is and what they're trying to sell. Then put together a list of relevant topics. Hey, Rebecca, I know you're interested, you know, you're trying to sell the copywriting program. Have you ever thought about writing an article content on, or I've come up with 3 ideas that I think your audience would love to hear. And then just write them in the body of the email. I'm going to open that email every time. I'm going to know that it's a custom email, that you didn't send it to 100 other companies, because it's specific to me. And immediately you've demonstrated your value to me by showing me that you know my audience and that you know what they're interested in. With that, that's the last part. When pitching the person, keep in mind the intention of the company. What are they trying to sell? What are they trying to do with their content? And put that in there. I see you're doing this. You know, because of that and your audience, here are some ideas that I think you should write about, and I'd like to write them for you. The next question that might pop up right now in the Q&A that I usually hear whenever I talk about online content is, but what if they steal my ideas? Don't worry about it. It may happen. It will rarely happen. Just walk away and pat yourself on the back and say, thank goodness I did not get into a big contract with that company, because that would have been a battle down the line. Don't worry about people stealing your ideas. Again, it rarely happens. We rarely hear anything about it. But if it does, just be grateful that that was your only dealing with that kind of person. Okay, Katie, I have been going nonstop for 40 minutes, and I apologize to everybody for my speed, but I am just so excited about retainers, and I'm glad that we got to do this session. I really hope that you do this and jump on some of these opportunities. And Katie, now you will talk about best practices for actually landing them.
I will. I just wanted to finish up. Oh, these questions. I'm really getting great questions. Jenny was asking if we had a sample of the proposal template for newsletters, and I was just saying how in the the newsletter program that we have, the whole last module, Michael talks about pricing, selling, delivering, and how you develop all of that stuff. And so, and the reason why I just wanted to start with that is just so that you know, especially if you're new to us, while we put so much pride and stake and energy and effort into teaching you the skills that you need to be expert level, really, in any of the specific writing niches or skills that we teach you, we put just as much effort into helping you then take those skills and translate them into money, into revenue, into building your business. So I just want everyone to always be rest assured that we have that as much of a focus as the skill building. It's then helping you take those skills and make money. So pretty much anything that you're going to get from us, you're going to see, you know, both of those things addressed, because we feel that that's a best practice for helping you be successful. And we're all about best practices. And I just think that's such an important mindset to have in your dealings with your clients as well, too. So always thinking about, and really what it comes down to is the overall goal, the overall intention with any of this work that we do, any of the work that you do is win-win. When you're successful, we're successful. When your clients are successful, you're successful. So I think by incorporating that in all your actions from the very beginning, I can tell you that it's a great way to live, and I just think it's a sure path to success.
If I can before you jump into this, Katie, I love our team so much. They've already gone to the catalog, revised the page for social media, and put the discount in there. And it's actually better than I thought it was going to be. It's actually a $300 discount. So I'm going to post a link in the chat for anyone who's interested in social media. Don't go through any other channels. Only use this link because that one has already been turned on with the deal that we're offering next week. That way, just in case anybody wants to get started. But Jackie was on the line, and she said, I can do this while we're on the webinar. So she made it happen. Jackie. I have no idea how, but she made it happen.
Well, that's fantastic. That's great. Well, good. Okay, so let's get into this. Now, I mean, I was like jumping. I'm thinking I should do social media. I could do but
the story of my life here at Aided AI.
I have a pretty cool day job, so I don't need to do that. But there are so many companies. I was just talking to two friends within the last week who really don't even understand what I do or what but both of them were saying, do you have somebody that can help me with my Twitter and my Instagram? And I'm like, do I? Just tell me exactly what you need and I'll get the word out. So every company needs help with keeping in touch, building the relationship, social media, e-letters. These are the tools of the trade, and it's something that business owners don't really have the time necessary or the skill or the expertise to do themselves, and they are happy to bring somebody in to help them do that. So with everything that you do as a copywriter, you are solving problems. You are helping people be more successful, and that's part of this whole best practice too, is owning that and embracing that and starting from there. Let's do this together. Let's get this done. Let's make you more successful. And that's the approach. So, this is kind of the scary part. Like, okay, how do I actually do it? And how do I make sure that it's fair? And how do I, all of those things. Another thing I'd just like to say at the start of any of these types of conversations is the client-writer relationship is not an adversarial one. It's not like you're going in to do battle or that it's going to be this tooth and nail, nickel and dime kind of negotiation. It just doesn't work that way. You offer this valuable service that these people need, and it's always, I won't say always, but for the kind of companies that you're going to be working for, it isn't that it's not like used car sales going on. It's not that type of negotiation whenever you're doing that. But it is important to put things in perspective and to know that a small yoga studio who could be great for you to get started with isn't going to have the same kind of volume or budget or need as one of Agora's newsletter publishing divisions, where it's the sky's the limit, really. So I think as part of your homework, as you're checking out niches and finding the companies that you want to work with and establishing these relationships, is really understanding what their needs are and what their potential growth is, the size of their market, what they're doing now, and how you can add to that and help them build. Most people aren't comfortable going from 0 to 60 at once. They want to take baby steps, and I think that's a good way to look at this as well too. But so first of all, you wanted to see where they are on the playing field, And then also, what is it that they're doing on a regular basis? The big thing about retainers is there's regularity to them. Typically, these are things that companies need every month. They just want it to be like clockwork. You want to be sure that you embrace everything that we've been talking about, that all the great points that Rebecca did. I would listen to this again. I'd listen to it maybe two or three times and really own this stuff so that when you're talking about retainers and communicating, these things are coming right off the tongue because you believe them. And with any kind of client, you want to make sure that this is a product or service that you're excited about, that you believe in. It's a conversation that you have some passion about, that it's, reputable and all of those things, and that you like the people. Again, you're creating your dream work environment, your work situation, this part of your life. You get to call the shots. So there's no reason to work for people that, you might not be a fit with personality-wise or any other way. So that's all work that you do on your own and before you start having any kind of conversations. Another thing is, like I said, with baby steps, especially with companies, with companies that are just starting out. Like my friend that I was just telling you about, she has a very small budget, but I bet you, I'll guarantee you, it was like, it was less than $500 a month for what she needed. But as soon as she gets somebody in there and doing what she needs to, by 6 months from now, I'm sure the person will be doing enough to have my friend happily pay them $1,000 a month. But she's got to get to her comfort level, and the relationship has to build. So don't be concerned or put off if at the start it is something small to get started, because all the great reasons that you want to do retainers apply no matter what size the company is. It's great to have a steady paycheck. It's great to know what you're going to be doing on the third Thursday of every week, or or of every month, or however that works out. And it's a place to start, and it's a place to grow. And the other thing about this is, if you're like the social media person for a company, like Rebecca was saying, there's going to be so many opportunities for you to bring other projects, other ideas, other things outside of your retainer deal to the table. And like Rebecca was saying, hey, everybody's talking about, this great new plant source for energy, and what if we did this and that and that, and then that becomes your project, and then you just never know where that can lead. So there's no retainer deal that's too small. There's always room. Once you get in, establish yourself, do a great job. 99.9% of the time it grows. And during this growth period, you definitely want to check in. I wouldn't do it every month, but every couple months, every 6 months, and definitely once a year. Check in with the client. Say, hey, is this everything good? Everything up to standards? Everything? Are you happy with this? And check in with yourself as well too. This is there's two people in this relationship, and so make sure that it's working for you. And then think about, okay, how can we make this better? How can we make this more? What more do I bring to the table? Or is this just great, and now that I have this down, I can start looking for other jobs? But the point is especially with retainer deals, and we see it all, I don't know how many we have right now, at least a dozen, but every single one, whatever it started with, it's probably, if not 50% more like 100% more than when it started. And it's been through this regular checking in, reevaluating, seeing what's working, what's not working, what do we want to put more time and resources in, and that's just the nature of the business. And I think by understanding that and even being proactive, if the client's not doing it themselves, the client will appreciate it, and I think it will serve you very well. So again, just to restate these benefits, and it is more than just cost saving, like Rebecca was talking about. You know, it definitely is a savings for, and it's time saving for the whoever the client is. And you know, so many times their time is just as important as their money, because that time means money. But you know, the thing is once you get involved, once you get to be part of the fabric of how their company works and part of the conversation that they're having with their customers, you're going to know their products and services on a very deep level, and you're going to be able to step in and intervene and prevent and be proactive as far as opportunities go, and help them solve problems and avert problems. You're going to know the audience. You're going to be part of them. You're going to be part of that community. And you're going to understand the mechanisms behind the scenes. And that's very important. You know, just this morning, it's so funny. We have this one thing that goes out, and there's probably it's our Buzz e-letter. It's a fun e-letter that we send out to everybody who's already registered for boot camp. And there's probably 6 players involved. And, you know, one person said, you know what, let's write up the standard operating procedure. And, you know, believe it or not, we didn't have that. But now that we have this document, it's like fantastic. And it took somebody coming in and recognizing the process and understanding it and then communicating it, which now makes everybody involved more productive and more efficient. So, again, by understanding how a company does business, you have the opportunity to add to it, make improvements, just add value. So I think that's not something to overlook. And I think it's so important to put emphasis on that as you're doing the work, and get to know the people that you're working with in the process, and understand where are their weak points, and how can you help them make their jobs smoother, easier. That's a huge benefit. And, you know, like we've been saying, you're just going to be able to bring ideas that maybe they're too close to see, or that they're just too busy to think about. You know, you're going to be bringing this great, fresh perspective. And, by the way, Mr. Client, you'll save money. So you're going to have that in your back pocket to as part of your, I don't even want to say the word sales presence, as part of your persuasive conversation that you will be having with clients as to the value of having you be on retainer to help them be more efficient and productive and profitable every single month. So, this is important too. And again, I want to stress, this is 2 sides, because I want you to have power in these relationships. I don't want you to feel like they're making, the clients make all the shots and the clients, it's all up to them. That's not the case. You guys are equals here. They have a problem, you're bringing a solution. You know, they're not doing any favors by hiring you. You guys are working collaboratively to the end of making them more productive. So, you know, when you start, you might want to just say, let's try this for 30 minutes, let's try this for 90 days and see how we both feel. I think this kind of checking in communication is so valuable, and it helps everybody just have a sense of, oh, you know, we're not actually getting married here. We're still just dating, and that's okay, and that's what you want. I would say when you get started that if and this goes both ways too, if either party wants to cancel, that you agree to a time period, because you don't want to leave, if you decide it's not for you, you don't want to leave them in the lurch, and just like you wouldn't want to be left, you wouldn't want to just be cut dry. So, you say, let's do a 90-day trial run, and then you check in from there, and then after that, it's like if either party wants to end, let's give each other whatever amount of time is reasonable to get somebody else up and running, or, have you finish things out in a professional manner. Okay, so now best practices for structuring retainers. There is a lot of information about this, particularly in our B2B programs, and because somebody was asking me if B2B, if retainers are common in B2B, and I'm just saying this off the top of my head, because although I do know that I know plenty of health companies and financial companies and, just direct marketing companies love to have people on retainers. But if anything, I would say they may be even more common in B2B, but that's not based on anything other than just a hunch. So this is a little bit of a dance that definitely it can be intimidating until you get that sense of confidence, that understanding that you guys are, both parties are looking to have a win-win outcome. But in evaluating this just from your perspective, the thing that you want to consider is, what's the time going to be involved? How much time are you going to be spending? And how is that going to change most likely over the course of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? It's going to take you a little bit more time the first couple months to get up to speed, to get familiar and everything, but it will improve. So try to give yourself an average in there when you're really considering how much time you're going to dedicate to whatever the projects happen to be that fall under the retainer. How much would you earn if you were taking on these projects individually? That's something else to consider. If this was piecemeal, what would that look like? And evaluate that versus if you had the steady gig, and again, keeping in mind that steady gig probably would turn into something more. You want to think about what the value for the client is, and any dealings that you ever have with clients where you're proposing work, you want to have that front of mind. What is the result going to be to their bottom line? What is the net result of this work that you're doing? Even if it's not sales copy, how does it support their other efforts? What is the value to them as far as money and time? And then how much time and, what's the value of your client not to having to worry about this every month? That's a big thing, and not to overlook that. So all of these things should be weighed in if you are the one coming to the client and saying, yes, I'd like to write, 4 newsletters a month plus 3 emails, or whatever it looks like. When you have that kind of list of what it is that they want, you run it through the filter of these 4 or 5 bullets, and then you just determine what it's worth for you. And it may not always be you having to come up with a price. It may be that the client says, this is what I'd like, and my budget is $2,000 a month, and then it's really up to you to decide, is it worth it, based on everything else that's going on and the value of your time. So there's a little bit of a back and forth. There's not a cut and dried right way to do it. It is scary until you actually do it, and then it's not scary, and then you wonder, oh, what was I scared about? But it's exhilarating. You know, it's all these things. But the important thing is don't let it stop you. Don't let the fear of that stop you. Don't let the concern about that you may not say the right thing, or you know, or any of those, you know, messages that you may be coming from some part in your brain to stop you from doing this. Just ignore them, please. Call Rebecca, call me, send us an email. You know, we'll cheer you on. We'll walk you through it. But the important thing is just to get out there and give it your best shot. When you take all of these things that we've been talking about into consideration, and the bottom line is like what I started with, is you want to end up with a win-win. You want both sides feeling great about it, and just eager and anxious to do more, basically. A couple things to keep in mind. We go back to the dating and marriage, and you know, we use that analogy a lot in a lot of the things that we're talking about, because this is all about relationship building. You know, with your clients, you want to have long-term relationships, but they do have to start from the beginning. They do start with what, you know, a first date, which could be a small sample that you send, or you know, whatever that first conversation is. So you want your first impression to be the very best that it can be, being professional, being on time, being easy to work with, bringing ideas, being succinct. You know, that translates to being respectful of their time. Putting your best efforts into applying everything that you're learning in our programs, which is all about persuasion. That don't lose sight of that. And so you want to know who it is that you're talking to, what's important to them, and you want to solve a problem for them. You know, always kind of to keep in your back pocket that if a retainer deal is not accepted for some reason, well then you know, go down to single projects. You know, if they don't want to commit to, you know, a 6-month newsletter deal, well, you know, let's just try it for a month and see how that goes. Or 4 e-letters a month. Okay, well, let me just do one, and you know, you can have your other writers do the other and see how that goes. Then the inverse of this, or, you know, yeah, I guess it's the inverse, is once you have a retainer deal, you want to be thinking about ways to upsell them using that marketing term, and grow that retainer into more and more work, which I think you'll see will happen very organically, and that won't be a problem at all. You know, if you're doing a good job for somebody, they're going to have a list of things for you to add to your to-do list. All right. I think that's it. Rebecca, did I leave anything out there?
I don't think so. I have been answering so fast in the chat. These are some great questions, and I love the fact that these questions are really, I can tell it's about where I can tell where your brains are by the questions that you're asking, like how far down the process you are and the types of questions you're asking. They're really coming from more of a, okay, I get this, I see it, I just need this one little thing answered before I can move forward. So that actually makes me very confident that we gave you the right information today to get you guys moving forward. So thank you for these great questions. At this point, Barb and Denise, if you can start to prioritize any other questions that haven't been answered, and Katie, if you want to jump over to the prioritized window. I have a couple. Actually, I'll answer this one out loud. I was going to type it in, that's why I was going to pause, but you go look for a question, I'll answer this one. T says, technical things like SEO are difficult to measure. Where do we get help with that or increase sales? How do you tie back to your newsletter to prove that you're valuable? So it all comes down to and somebody else asked a similar question. Are clients going to be looking for actual measurable things? So let me answer that part of it first. It really all depends on the type of project you're working on and what the defined outcome is for the project. You'll start to learn this as you get into the freelancing world, and especially if you have like essential business templates or are working with clients programs, we really walk you through a creative brief. And one of the things that you'll oftentimes ask clients is, what is your intention with this? What are you hoping to accomplish? Now, if it's something like search engine optimization, you already know. Their goal is to get their website to show up higher for certain key phrases in the search engine results. So things like that are actually very measurable and they're going to expect it. They're going to want to know that if they're on page 5, they're going to want to see that you got them to page 4, to page 3, to page 2, and then page 1, because that's your job as an SEO copywriter. If you're working in sales emails, or you're working on an ad campaign for social media, or you're working on online content that goal is to be shared 500 plus times on social media, there could be goals like that. Not always, but in those cases, then they are going to be looking for measured results. They're going to be looking for sales and how many shares and how many comments were on the content piece, or, you know, what open rates for newsletters. They'll be looking at those metrics. And typically, if you're working with a company that's medium size, like, or even small, like INSIDE, but that has, where you can tell they're doing a lot of marketing, their technical people will be doing that for you. They will have analytics on their website. They will have access to open rates and click-through rates and things that could be measured. So it really depends on what project you're working on. Other times, though, there might not be anything measurable. It could truly just be engaged, you know, just making sure that this newsletter goes out every month, and that's all we really care about, and that's okay. So it'll all depend on what the client's expectations are, and if they expect any measurement, then it's really on them to provide the measurement tool. That is why direct response copywriters are paid so much money. The reason why we're not $5 writers is that we know the intention, and we're trying. And on the direct response side, if you're doing sales emails, sales letters, video scripts, things that have a goal like that, you're going to get paid a lot more because they can measure the results. So that's just something that's a bigger conversation. But as far as where do you get help if they don't have the measurement things, I would recommend coming over to Wealthy WebWriter. If you're totally novice when it comes to email marketing or internet marketing, and you get a company who is total novice as well, let us help you. We have Wealthy WebWriter is our membership site for web writers. That's typically the space that you'll be in, and just join there. There's usually a $1 trial that you can do to start. It's $29 a month. It's such great value because we cover all of that stuff, and you'll be able to connect a lot of people in that community who can do the work for you. Like when I have a question about websites or analytics, I go to Jim Wright. He's someone that I met through a website building webinar series. He's with us over on Wealthy WebWriter, and so when I have a question, I'm in that community, so I just go and ask him, and we shoot videos for everything that you need. If you get stuck on something and you're like, hey, I want to work with this company, but they don't have any technical people, how do I do this for them? We'll literally shoot you a video and show you step-by-step how to do it. So that's what I would recommend. If you get into a situation where they want to measure and you have no idea how to do it, then come over and let us help you. Long answer, sorry.
Okay. You know what, I'm just going to answer this one out loud, too, because it's taken me a long time. Maxine is asking, I write for several chiropractic clinics, and they all work with the spine. Can I write an article about something spine-related and submit it to multiple centers? And Maxine, I guess that depends on what your deals are with the clients. If your work for with the clinics, if your work for hire for them, then chances are they probably own the copyright. You know, that's the kind of thing where you just have a conversation about it with them, what their expectations are. My guess is they probably wouldn't want something repurposed. But you could certainly take the heart of the research or the message and write it in different ways for different clients. But you know, that's just a conversation as to what the actual deal is and what everybody's expectations are, so that everybody knows what it is that they're getting. Oh boy, how do I get started if I'm not a self-starter? I think we have to have another webinar about that.
We did have a good one with Joshua Boswell, I think, last time on getting started, though, and choosing your path.
Yeah, that's
Barb
true.
did put together, she posted a link in the chat to Inside AWI, and he gives you really like 8 steps to walk through to get started. So, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to motivate someone who's unmotivated, but what I find is if you can follow those roadmaps like that, where you don't really have to think about it, you just commit to doing the next step, and the next thing you know, you're underway and you're moving forward. And the more momentum you feel and the more forward progress you make, you'll find that motivation, it starts to fuel you. And along the way, if you hit a little bit of success, all you got to do is tell us, and we will douse a whole bunch of fuel on your success fire to really get it going. We find that a little bit of publicity really helps keep you motivated and helps bring more clients to you. It helps, you know, once you land one, it's like a snowball. You want to pick up the phone the next second because there's a good chance that the next call you make is another client, the next one after that. The snowball starts rolling, and momentum is a beautiful thing. So there's no way to like totally kickstart you, but I would go to that Inside AWI. Joshua really did a good job of laying out points that if you just commit to doing the next thing, and you'll start to feel that natural momentum.
Okay, Ricky's asking, do you think the amount of work involved in retainers is less profitable than the 6-figure copywriting ops you taught about in the 6-figure? Which hole is bigger to? Well, just to clear things up, what you learn in the 6-figure program, the Accelerated Copywriting Program, it applies to any type of writing that you're doing. And there are retainer opportunities for all kinds of clients, all kinds of copywriting. So it's not really an either-or thing. Rebecca talked specifically about social media and newsletters. You know, those are easy to break into, but you're still using the foundation of what you've learned in the copywriting course. We have writers on retainer who write sales letters for us. So it's not just for these other things. You know, retainer deals apply to any companies that hire writers on a regular basis. So I hope that answers your question. It's not really an either-or kind of thing.
That's something I think that's really important what Katie said, and I echo that. With AWI, the minute you walk through the front door, regardless of what opportunity or path you want to choose, we're going to encourage you to take the accelerated program for 6-figure copywriting. That is your foundation, and no matter what path you choose, it's all direct response. Whether even in B2B, if you talk to Steve Slonwhite and Ed Gandia and Pete Savage and Gordon Graham, it's all still persuasion. It's all still conversation. No matter what, web, social media, anything, we're trying to engage and persuade someone to do something, to feel something, to connect with us on a certain way. It's all direct response. And so even the experts who have come to us to write our foundation programs on web and B2B, if you ask them the question, should I start with the accelerated program or jump straight into this course, they will all say, you start with the accelerated program, because they have written their programs assuming that you have a basic understanding in persuasion. So it's always going to be it's best for you to start with that program.
Terray is asking, is a website necessary for credibility for e-letters? You know, a website's great for anything, for, proving credibility for any type of writing service that you want to sell. It's not critical, but, it's certainly, it's really the equivalent of having a business card these days. Like Rebecca was saying earlier, though, it's really about the samples. And, you can start a conversation through email and send samples and possibly get hired without ever having a website, but it certainly is nice and is very professional if, you can send a potential client to a website. But don't panic if you don't. Don't let that stop you. But that being said, Rebecca did just finish her 4 days to building a freelance website, and you can do this in 4 days. It's a program that's available that should be on your to-do list at some point early as you're planning to launch your business. But again, that's something that could stop you. Say, oh, I can't do this because I don't have a website. If there's a client, if there's a company that you want to write for, figure out the best way figure out what it is that you need to do to persuade them to hire you. And whatever those steps are, get them done and do it.
I wanted to address this one thing. Sharon, I totally feel where you're coming from. She says fear is paralyzing, and don't we know it? We are so empathetic for where you're coming from, and even though we talk like, hey, it's really easy and do it like this, we're not saying it's easy. It's easier if you follow best practices, and that's what our intention is with this and with the programs and things that we teach. We want to make it as efficient and streamlined as possible so that you're not left to doubt, wondering what your next step is. But this is a big deal, you know, starting your own. I just want to acknowledge the fact that what you're hoping to move into is a huge change in your life. And there has never been anything in my life that has had great impact that didn't kind of make me want to throw up before I started. You know, when I think back to the things that gave me the biggest reward, and it's going to make me like tear, but like the things that really scared the crap out of me were the things that ultimately had the biggest return. It's about how much you're willing to put in is going to be how much you're going to take out. This is not, it can be a small, for those of you who are here and you just want a little bit of extra income, you know, you're a stay-at-home mom and one of my girlfriends is now this amazing six-figure copywriter, but she started with us 7 years ago and she really just wanted to make $500 a month so that she could do Mommy and Me programs with her new baby without having to ask her husband for them. She was a stay-at-home mom and she just wanted to make a little bit of extra money. Well, she's put up a money-making website, and that's a whole other story now. She's done an amazing job for herself, but that's okay. But for those of you who want the big change, I want to say goodbye to a career. I want to launch a business. This is not an easy thing, and not easy in that it's not just like a push a button and there you go. You know, you're learning something that companies are willing to pay more. I hate using this phrase, but more than doctors and lawyers. We talk about this internally all the time with copywriters who are doing so well. They almost feel embarrassed. They feel embarrassed to talk to their family because they can't tell them how much money they make because they're not on call all night. They're not working 80 hours a week. Sure, they're working hard, and they worked really hard to get to where they are. They put in a lot, but that return was because of the investment that they put in, and they're slightly embarrassed that they're paid so well because of it. But it's a big thing. You know, it's a big change, and anything worth doing is worth doing well. So put in the time and just fake it. You know, that early part of your fear is just taking the first step. It's because of the unknown, but our programs literally lead you step by step by step. And the only thing that will hold you back and guarantee not moving forward is saying yes to the fear and not moving forward. The only way that the client is going to guarantee to say no is if you don't ask them, right? That's the only way that you will stay where you are today. So just make the decision that you're going to try. Just jump in the pool. We promise we won't let you drown. And we're here. You know, reach out to the community, reach out to our member services team, get involved in our groups. You'll find that if you just get a little bit of support and you get a few steps under your belt, again, you'll get that momentum that I was talking about earlier. And once that starts, it comes fast and the fear will go away. So good luck to you, Sharon, and I hope you cross over the fear side. This is a good question. Kevin says, when negotiating a retainer deal, oh, you already answered it. Never mind. I started to answer it, and then I looked up and saw the fear one, and I wanted to address that.
A couple people are concerned that if they do jump into social media, that it's, you know, because social media is so hectic and frenetic and you know, 24/7, are they going to have to be online all day, all night? Are they going to have to, you know, check in every hour? And, you know, that's all part of you creating the kind of the job and experience that you want. You know, I can't imagine any company expecting 24/7 coverage. But you know, that's on the company to figure out how they want that. You just figure out what your piece of it is. And again, don't let that kind of thinking, that's really an obstacle that you're kind of putting up to talk yourself out of doing this. You know, again, you want something reasonable, they're going to want something reasonable. You negotiate whatever that looks like, and then you take it from there. But you know, don't be concerned about those kind of you know, boogeyman kind of thoughts.
And talk to your client. You know, find out what their expectations are. I will tell you that social media, the risk with social media is that it is public and it's immediate and people are, quote unquote, somewhat anonymous. So when they do start fires, you know, your client may expect you to be in there. But then again, you might not be doing the customer service side. For a company that has 24-hour service on customer service, they're likely going to have their customer service team involved in the social media to do that. So it really depends on what the expectations are of the client and how they're using social media. If it's a LinkedIn group, you're checking in once a day, you're starting discussions, maybe twice a day. Facebook, you're setting up all of your content curation ahead of time, and you know what your conversations are for the week, so that's already all preloaded. And then you're maybe checking it a couple times to make sure that there's 100% response rate to everybody who's commenting on that thing. But it really depends on the expectation and how they're using social media.
Ricky's asking, in the six-figure program we speak about royalties based on sales, is that part of retainer job? Well, again, all of these things are negotiable. There's not a set right or wrong for anything. For some of the writers that we work on, sure, the things that they write on, they get a royalty on top of. But for if you're writing maybe just a newsletter that's really more a communication tool or an information tool, that would most likely be a set fee. But if you're writing something that has sales attached to it, it could either be a set fee or it could be a royalty. These are all things that are going to, you know, are going to become obvious as you're getting into knowing what the company's, what their practices are and how they handle these things. And it could be different for every single one that you work with, and some it'll be great if you have them, some it'll be great if you don't, and you can mix and match those things.
Linda wants to say, is it recommended that we go through the pricing course first? It's helpful. So for those of you who've seen that, we posted, we put out a pricing guide this week, and the reason is that the pricing is a question that we get on every single webinar every day. We get an email about it every webinar. We get a question about it, if not 10 questions about it. It's a big concern for freelancers, and it's a big stopping point. It becomes a roadblock because they just can't get past the, what if I price too high? What if I price too low? How do I know? And so we hired Elise Bennon, who is the authority on the topic. She actually negotiates for Bob Bly as his pricing person. So she walks you all the way through the confidence side of it, like really understanding pricing, really understanding what you need to charge, and then how to get the information that you need from the client to come up with the right price for them. The scope of the project will define the price. How, you know, is it a 500-word article? Is it a 5,000-word article? Is it on a very easy topic? Is it on a very technical topic? It's really going to change by company. Is this a company that's hoping to make $100,000 from a sales letter or $1 million from a sales letter? So much goes into pricing, and you really need to get information from the clients, other than like things like, again, social media. It could go up from there if they want you to do more, but you really want to understand, like, what kind of work am I going to be putting in on this project before I strike my price? So if you have the ability to get that pricing program, I by all means would recommend it. We already had somebody who's gone through. Her name is Deb. She went through it already this week, and she wrote a lease saying, this was awesome. You did exactly what I needed. This is the exact hurdle I had to get past. So if you can, definitely do it. And for those of you who don't know about the pricing program, I don't even know where you'd find it because it's so brand new. It's not even in our catalog, but there is. I found a news item on it, so I will post the link.
And it's on the homepage. It's one of the boxes on the homepage. Just because the deal does end today, so you want to get in. If it is a great thing to have in your back pocket. Like I said, you know, not only just the understanding, but with that understanding comes confidence, so that kind of these fears that probably are going to creep in at some point, you know, you can just shut them down. T is saying, I have quite a bit of online material that I've authored in previous jobs, but no newsletters that I've put together. Oops, these keep jumping around. myself, how do I get started in selling my skills in something I haven't done? I think you said you have a website that helps novices. Well, the website, what I was talking about, Rebecca, she's put together this program that I just can't recommend highly enough, speak highly enough of it, and it walks you through how to put together a website for your own writing business. It's called Build Your Freelance Writing Website in 4 days, and it addresses all of these types of things. So, Rebecca, do you have a quick answer? I know it's not necessarily a quick answer, but what would you recommend?
Was it about the samples or a website that helps? Let me see. How do I get started with my skills? Something I haven't done. So this, it sounds like it's more about how do you promote yourself if you don't have experience in that industry or in that project type. Is that T's question?
Right, but if she has other material, or he has other writing materials that they have done, but it's not necessarily for these things.
So I'm a big fan of relevancy. I really don't think if I want to hire you to write copy for AWAI's e-letter, seeing a white paper in solar technology isn't going to help me understand if we're going to work well together. So even though people have a lot of writing experience, I still always recommend you talk about that in your bio and you talk about that in your about page. And we actually covered this a lot in the website building series because I want to address that question when people are building their websites. I have all this experience. How do I use it over here when it has nothing to do with that? So what I always say is on your left, like take a piece of paper and draw a line, cut it into 2 pieces. On the left-hand side, put down all of your experience. And at the top of the right-hand side of the paper, write down who you're trying to sell to. Who is the client? Who is the company? What do they want? What are you hoping to sell them on? I want to be a white paper writer. I want to write video scripts for the health market. What is it? Then look to the left and figure out how can I translate my past experience to make it relevant to the group that I'm trying to go after, right? So the perfect example the other day was the girl was a paralegal. She had 20 years of paralegal experience, but she wanted to go into the financial market because that's where her passion was. So along with selling her passions, we looked at that paralegal experience and we thought, and someone else came up with this idea. She has amazing researching abilities. She understands how important facts are at persuading and selling. She has 20 years of researching and finding the facts to get the persuasive argument sold. That was her job. Who better to write your copy than someone who has that experience? So it's just figuring out how to make it relevant to the person. And then beyond that, let's say you wrote white papers for solar technology and now you want to write emails for health and fitness. Just write samples. Again, nobody is looking to see who your past, not necessarily. We're not looking for a lot of different samples and a lot of different clients. It's just about seeing, do you understand my audience? Do you understand the voice of this industry? You know, are you able to communicate with this group in a way that makes sense for our business? I think relevancy samples are going to get you way further than really great samples in an industry and a style that I can't use because I'm not going to understand the white paper on solar technology. So hopefully that makes sense. And then to take the question one step further, for those of you asking about do I need a website, you don't need a website, but I challenge you to find or think of a professional that you would do business with these days that doesn't have a website, right? When anyone's selling you a professional service, and that's what you're doing as a copywriter or any form of professional writer, you're selling a professional service to a business, it feels weird if you don't have a website because that's just what businesses do. A professional and a business, they have a website these days. So it's important that you ultimately have one. At least have a LinkedIn profile to start, and we're going to do a whole Inside AWI on LinkedIn profiles in June. But I do recommend putting up a website, and I did do a 4-day series. I actually walk you through all of this, how to apply your past experience to make it relevant, how do you write your website if you have 0 testimonials and 0 samples, all the way through all the technical stuff. So you can find that in our catalog as well. We just finished, but you still get access to all of the recordings, and we have a Facebook group with a technical person who answers all of your questions along the way. So if you do need help with your website, definitely get access to that, and we literally help you put the thing up. We give you a critique on it to make sure that it's awesome and that you feel confident with it, and that's over in the catalog as well. Hopefully I answered all that, Katie. It seemed like there were like 3 questions there.
Yeah. Okay, we got 3 here I just want to blow through because they're all important. Mark, starting a retainer deal will still, in caps, working a 9 to 5 seems daunting. Any advice on how to chat up clients, research, and not get fired from your day job? Well, you know, we have lots of people who have made that transition, made that switch, and it's not easy. You know, you're going to have to work, you know, there's only so many hours in a day, and something's got to give. So, you know, you don't want to get fired, so you want to fulfill your obligations there, but it may mean that you're working nights or you're working some weekends until you make this switch. Ed Gandia is a prime example of this. He had a full-time sales job, and you know he figured out how to do his writing and stuff on his off hours, and you know, it took him over a year, but he was able to replace his income. Same with Roy Furr. He actually wrote a program called Making the Leap, which talked about how he came up with his plan while he was still working and made the transition. I think, you know, with email, it is easy. You don't necessarily have to be in touch during traditional business hours, but it's going to be a juggling act, and it will be worth it. I can promise you that. But, you know, there's going to be a little bit of some pain points in between. I think the important thing is to plan really carefully and plan out your days so that you're not wasting any time. You're getting done what you need to get done, and it's very strategic in where you're putting your time. I think that would be the biggest advice that, you know, the most realistic piece of advice I could give you on that. Tyrell's asking, out of curiosity, since I'm interested in cars, is it possible to find retainer deals in the automotive industry in B2B or B2C? And yes is the answer. And again, just to be clear, there aren't certain companies that are just retainers and some that aren't retainers, or there aren't some niches or industries that do have retainers and others that don't. You will find retainer opportunities throughout all niches and, you know, across companies, across niches. Not every company offers a retainer, but that doesn't rule out whole niches or areas to look. And, you know, there's so much happening in automotive, in B2B and B2C, that I have to believe that there are, you know, just a wealth of opportunities there. So it's just finding your clients, you know, start with the company that you want to work with. Figure out where you fit in. Start the dialogue, and then this is going to unfold. You're going to see which way, you know, where the opportunities lie. And it may be that you know, you don't start with a retainer deal right out of the gate. It may be that you have a couple test projects for you and for them to see what works, and then gradually, hey, you know, if you like this, how about we just, you know, agree to do this every month, and then we don't have to do this negotiation back and forth. It could, you know, the start of the conversation could be just as simple as that. Rebecca, do you see anything else? Are we about ready to call it?
I'm just answering one question. I'll just answer it out loud. Just out of curiosity, since I'm interested in cars, is it possible to find retainer deals in the automotive industry in B2B or B2C? Oh, sorry.
I just answered that.
Sorry. I was typing and answering an email at the same time. You did, sorry. Barb and Denise, if you guys can clear these. I don't see any others. I'm guessing you answered this last one. Commercial businesses that hire copywriters. My background is in nonprofits. Did you answer that?
I have not. No.
Okay. So T says, you've talked about commercial businesses that hire copywriters. My background is in nonprofits, and from what I've seen, they do most of their outreach from in-house. Do you have info on nonprofits' use of external copywriters? I don't have a ton of info, but I do know that they use them. With nonprofits, though, the key will be, if you want to make a good living as a writer, the key will be to go with the larger nonprofits. The smaller ones aren't going to have a lot of budget to pay for freelance writers. So you really just have to work with each individual one directly at a national level again, the bigger ones, but we don't have a ton of information. We do have a program on how to write for the fundraising market, but it's not one that we talk about a lot just because it, again, it's not a bad niche to choose. It's a great niche to choose, and you get to do something that provides goodwill in addition to making a living, but it's a little bit more challenging, again, because you do have to work with much larger outfits. So I apologize for not having more info on that, but again, I would go, I think the same question kind of goes with, you know, these companies are posting for ads with, they're posting their ads with, for copywriters with 10 years of experience. Any company, no matter what they're asking for, doesn't mean that's what they only want and that they're not hiring freelancers too. We typically have 2 in-house copywriters, but then we hire dozens of freelancers every year. Just because somebody has an ad up for a 10-year experienced copywriter doesn't mean that they don't want to hear from you too. It really all comes down to how you position yourself. You're bringing value to them, you understand their business, you're looking for the win-wins, and you're basically saying, hey, give me a chance on this. If you have a good idea, it doesn't matter how much experience you have, and if you represent yourself as a professional and they can see the value in your expertise, just even in the topic, they're going to give you a shot, especially if you go for some of the, and this is a different conversation, but some of the less risky, you know, just offer to write one piece of online content. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. They're out a couple $100 and, you know, but if you position yourself as just give me a chance. You know, I really want to write for you and I've got a couple of great ideas and I'd like to give it a shot. And if we like working together, then we'll continue. And if not, that's okay. So there's like that bigger conversation here. Don't not go to someone because you think that they only hire in-house, that they only work with agencies, or that they only work with full-time. That's not necessarily the case. And so I would recommend going after every client that you want to work for and positioning yourself the way you want to be positioned and selling what you want to offer, no matter what. Betty says, any thoughts about serving clients at a distance? That is, if a prospective client is many states away. It will be very rare for you to ever meet with a client face-to-face. So no matter where you live, no matter what country, no matter what state, no matter what remote area of some wilderness, it doesn't matter. As long as you can meet the deadlines and have phone meetings and communicate over email, you won't likely ever meet your clients. I just did a webinar with Steve Swanwhite a couple weeks ago, and someone asked that question. He said maybe 5% of his clients he's ever met with face-to-face, and that's only if they happen to be in his local area, but that's very rare. When you offer online content, is it typical that they have their website and graphic people already on board, or do they expect you to set that up for them? If you're doing online content, you normally are going after clients who have really good websites. That's another good inside lesson. It seems counterintuitive that you would want to go for clients who don't have great stuff, but the reason they don't have great stuff is because they don't value their stuff. They don't value their website. They don't understand the value of social media or online content, and therefore they're not willing to pay for it. So you don't want to write for clients who don't value their marketing and therefore their writers. You want companies who are turning out great content and great social media and have great websites. So yes, they would typically have them in place. All right, guys, I think we answered 195 questions. That has to be a record, right?
I love our curious people, our engaged people, our thirsty to learn, our future success stories. Good job, everybody.
So many people are commenting that this was one of the best webinars they've attended. So congratulations, girls.
Why, thank you. That means a lot.
Just wait till next month.
That
challenge accepted. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Thank you. And I will follow up with everyone on Monday with an email that includes a playback. We'll give you a Q&A. And what we actually do with this is we will transcribe the whole thing and turn it into a report. So we covered a lot of topics. And so we'll put it into a report that way you can easily flip back when you're like, well, what did Katie say about that best practice about X, Y, and Z? Or what was that opportunity Rebecca talked about? It'll all be in the transcript and report. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Everybody
Bye.
have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.